My name is, yes, this will be recorded, if that is okay with all of you. The recording will be available on the New York State Occupational Therapy Association website, nisota.org, once the event concludes. Sorry, I'm just continually letting people in. But anyway, so my name is Maribel McAlintal. I am the secretary and the chair of student affairs for NYSOTA. Welcome to our virtual meet and greet with the one and only OT Miri. And we have, so I will be introducing two people. There is Luis Filgueira. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, my Spanish isn't the best, but I will introduce Luis. He is a third year student from York College. He is one of our student delegates for NYSOTA, and he helped put this event together. So welcome, Luis. And then the other person I would like for us to introduce is the one and only OT Miri. I don't think she needs that much introduction. If you are an OT or an OTA student, you've probably seen her YouTube videos. She makes wonderful, amazing content, and we are looking forward to this interview. So I am going to mute my mic and turn off my camera, so that way the main focus will be on this dialogue. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We will have a Q&A at the end, and I hope you enjoy.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy and excited to be here. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm shaking a little bit. I lost sleep last night. I almost didn't sleep. You know how you get really excited on your first day of school, only to find out that it's going to be really hard, but you lose sleep anyway. That's how it was for me last night. I barely got any sleep because I was excited. I haven't done this in a while. I love doing student speaking engagements, and prior to the pandemic was able to go visit and meet with a lot of students, but I haven't been able to do that, and I missed it so much. So I can't wait to get to the Q&A section later, where I'll get to hear from you guys directly, and hopefully we'll have time to get to know each other a little bit better. But there are a lot of questions that you guys submitted, so I'm going to dive right in and get to as many questions as I can. Okay. So the first question I received was, did you study another career before OT? And I did. I had 2 careers prior to becoming an occupational therapist. This is something that a lot of people don't know about me because I don't share it online. But first one was a business I started in partnership with my very close friend and fellow alumni at UC Berkeley. Shortly after graduating from undergrad, I launched what was at the time the first late night delivery only service in the Bay Area, delivering sushi. And the core concept of this business was to create a healthy alternative to late night dining that could be delivered door to door using an online delivery system. Now, this might seem like really simple and not very innovative today, especially with the pandemic that really pushed this concept forward. But decades ago, when I first started this business, this was considered very innovative and highly likely to fail. In fact, everyone I knew told me I'd fail. They said it would never work, especially because I had no money. I mean, my bank account was in the negative. So I got all sorts of scary statistics on how 70% of restaurants fail and go under within the first year. But I just knew it was needed, and my gut told me that I could do it. I mean, if students are up and studying and partying in the wee hours of the night anyway, there must be a portion of students like me who wanted a healthier alternative, like sushi. So let me tell you, it wasn't just a portion of students, it was a whole lot of students and the residents in the Bay Area who loved the concept of ordering sushi from the convenience of their home and having it delivered to their door. And it was successful. And 3 years later, I was able to sell my first business. And so that was my first career. And my second career actually began and coincided at the same time that I was running my business. I was hired as a project analyst and worked in administration at a local hospital. Initially, I was signed on as a 1099 contractor by the foundation executive director, but eventually the vice president of patient services just sort of took me under her wings and opened the world for me by exposing me to opportunities that were frankly beyond my experience or expertise. I mean, what expertise could I have had in healthcare administration with a psychology background straight out of college? And I don't know what she saw in me, but she believed in me. So reporting directly to the VP of Patient Services, I was given the task of like spearheading big hospital initiatives, from like designing community pediatric clinics to being a part of implementing new elective percutaneous coronary intervention programs. I mean, this was an experience of a lifetime, and it allowed me to work alongside really seasoned, competent hospital executives and community leaders, and work cross-functionally across all the hospital departments. It was really, really hard. And I worked even harder. I was often the first one in to turn on the lights and the last one out to turn off the lights. But I think this experience is in part what prepared me to cross over from healthcare administration to being a clinician today, who not only understands clinical care, but the inner workings of the healthcare system in general and how it works, or how it doesn't work. So those are my two careers prior to becoming an occupational therapist. And my third career as an OT is by far the best one. All right, so that was the first question. What is your degree? I studied psychology in undergrad and was particularly interested in abnormal or clinical psychology. And I think in retrospect, it's probably because I just wanted to learn more about myself and all of my idiosyncratic behaviors that were really never understood by other people. I have so many of them. But now as an OT, I feel like I've really learned to manage these idiosyncratic behaviors, and not only manage it, but like really embrace it in myself and other people too. So psychology. And do you have a specialty as an OT? Yes, a certified neurospecialist. So when I was 8 months pregnant, like ready to give birth, as if life wasn't hard enough because I also had a toddler, I decided to become a certified neurospecialist. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was the best decision and I loved it. So I waddled into the workshop, like almost ready to give birth. And it was with, the instructor was Dr. Michael Eng. And I knew it would be fantastic because he was also my instructor while I was attending USC. And I just really adored him and have the utmost respect for him. And the course was fantastic. I highly recommend it. All right, so cross that one off. Will you teach in the future? Am I going too fast? I feel like I'm talking really fast. So you guys can always, Lewis, if you feel like I'm talking too fast, please feel free to slow me down. Okay, will you teach in the future? I'm not sure what the future holds for me. Over the years, I've been offered several teaching positions and was very honored. And it was tempting because I enjoy teaching and I enjoy meeting students in person. But I also love the creativity and flexibility I have in creating content online, because I can be as goofy as I want. I can sing, I can dance. I mean, you guys have seen me cutting my hair in my video, right? I mean, I can be 100% authentically me, and nothing can really beat that. And I fear that if I were to join an institution, I'd just be a misfit. But who knows? I mean, never say never. But here's something that I do daydream about, which is creating a new kind of OT program. I mean, I think if I can do it all over again, if I had another lifetime, I would love to create this program that not only recruits instructors based on their academic accolades and achievements, but also on their differing ability to teach and cater to various learning styles. I mean, if any profession can pull this off, wouldn't we be the ones who are best positioned to do it? Imagine, like, what if our kinesiology classes were not lecture based, but movement based? Because, I mean, after all, kinesiology is a class that teaches the mechanics of human body movement, right? Well, how about our mental health classes? Like, what if our mental health classes were based on simulations and field trips rather than PowerPoint slides? I mean, one of my USC professors actually did this and incorporated this style by having us all listen to an audio of a man speaking gibberish into our headphones for like 4 hours. And we were asked to complete tasks in the classroom and out in the community, all while having to listen to this continuous voice and noise in the background. And all of this can't really compete with understanding the experience of someone living with schizophrenia. It did give me an idea of how challenging it would be if you had to do, like, even for just most basic things, if you had to contend with auditory hallucination. Now, I recognize that not every class can be taught this way, but imagine how effective it would be for learning if we can incorporate these kinds of different teaching styles. I mean, we are a profession of doing and becoming, so wouldn't it be magical to see that unfold in our own classrooms? I know that was like a really long answer to this question, but in short, yes, my answer would be that I'd love to teach or be a part of creating a learning environment that really fosters creativity and celebrates different teaching styles. Next question. What do you think about faculty using your videos? So when one of the questions that students are asked to answer when joining the OT Miri Facebook group is how they found out about the group and about OT Miri, and it's often through the classroom. So I'm aware that it's being used widely, and I think it's great because I think, just as I mentioned, I think incorporating multiple methods of teaching styles into the classroom is great. And if my video can bring an approach that resonates with even just one student, I would say that that was beneficial. How do you decide what videos to use for YouTube? So if you've been watching my videos, you'll notice that there really isn't a particular order, pattern, or system. And that's because I started the channel with all the topics that were most challenging for me. My goal wasn't to share things that can be easily taught or learned through the textbook or the classroom, but I just wanted to share tips and strategies and epiphanies and ultimately breakthroughs that I had during those very lonely and grueling and dark hours. So that's why my channel isn't necessarily organized by content areas. I just wanted to talk about the hard stuff and let you all know that you're not alone, that I feel your pain, but that we're in this together. Solidarity. How do you balance being a mom, making videos, and working? I don't, and I haven't. Well, shortly after giving birth to my son Noah, I was ready to get back to work. I used to always tell my friends, even when I was pregnant, because I did not know how much I would love my son. I really didn't. I would always say, why do women give up their careers to stay home with their kids? I would never do that. I didn't go to school for 20 plus years to change diapers and feed little people. Well, Noah came along and my world just changed. He took my heart by storm, and there really was no role or honor that was greater than the role of being his mom. Don't get me wrong, I really struggled with it because so much of my identity for so many years was indelibly linked to my work, my competence, my occupation, but I just couldn't do it. I don't know how other moms do it. I know that some moms do, but for me, something had to give. I knew what I wanted, and I knew that it was to stay home with my babies. Did my career take a hit? Maybe, but I learned so much being a stay-at-home mom. It's made me so much stronger and given me like a wide range of skills that I never thought, I mean, that I never had before. Do you know, like, how many times a typical mom has to problem solve in any given day? They're like one of the most resourceful and creative people on this earth, and they're constantly putting out fires. I really think moms are superhumans. So the plan now is to just keep being a mom and fully devote myself to that role until my time has come to go back to work, whenever that may be. Do you have any advice for field work in a school slash hospital setting? Oh, well, whether whether you're in school or the hospital setting, you'll have a learning curve, and nothing will be a better teacher than the actual experience of working. Now, there are some things that you'll be only able to learn through the experience working. So going in, you'll feel inadequate. You'll feel like you don't know enough. I mean, you hear about a lot of new grads talking about imposter syndrome, but you just have to remember that almost every new grad feels this way, and be gentle with yourself. I think learning to become a competent clinician is a lifelong journey. And so you don't have to feel like you need to know everything from the start and everything about occupational therapy. It'll come in time. But having said that, I think it's really important to learn the setting as much as possible and the roles of the people and the disciplines you'll be working with. And this applies whether you're in the school or the hospital setting. So if you decide to work in the hospital setting, don't just do OT evals and treatments and learn about that. I think it's important to learn about the lab values and become familiar with the hospital lines, tubes, and drains, brush up on anatomy and your knowledge of pathophysiology of common diseases or injuries, because I think this is really important in not only helping you become a really great OT clinician, but it'll allow you to be a part of a bigger conversation in a multidisciplinary team, because you're not going to be working in a silo. So I think it's important not just focus on learning everything OT, although we love being an OT and that's our specialty. I think it's just as important to learn how to become an effective member of a team. And I think that starts by learning about the setting and the different roles that work in that setting. Okay. What is one thing that helped you get through your field work? Where did you do your field work? Oh gosh. Well, I did my field work in supportive housing in a mental health facility, and I can't say that there's really one thing that helped me get through field work, because there's just so many factors, so many moving elements that play into having an enriching fieldwork experience. But one thing that's always helped me, not just in field work, but in life in general, is to remain curious. I don't know if it's just me, but do you guys find that as we get older and more busy, we begin to lose our curiosity and our wonder for life? I mean, I know that that happened with me, but curiosity, like it leads to exploration, and exploration leads to discovery. So when you go into fieldwork, stay curious about your patients and the stories of their lives, their interests and hobbies. I mean, take genuine interest, because you'll not only be a better therapist for it, but you'll collect so many beautiful stories along the way to enrich your experience. You'll be talking about them for years. I still talk to my husband about some of these stories, and I still have tears when I talk about them. It's like it sustains me. Secondly, stay curious about your environment. ask questions, ask lots of questions, and learn why certain things work a certain way. When you maintain this level of curiosity and the desire to learn, you'll hardly have any time for workplace drama or gossip. You'll just keep growing and learning and thriving, and everyone's going to wonder why you're just so awesome. All right, let's check that off. Next one. What is the part of OT that you do not like? Well, lack of recognition. I think a lot of you can understand that and you share this frustration. We should be running the rehab departments and not just rehab, but we are capable and so well positioned to spearhead and implement women's centers, obesity programs, diabetes management courses, I don't know, afternoon school programs, and the list goes on and on. But I feel like in some ways we've just been pigeonholed and lumped with the rehab department. And we're often just the forgotten discipline, and that's really frustrating. So if anything, that's one thing that really frustrates me, and it's the part of OT that I would like to see an improvement. We have to have a conversation about what we can do to elevate our profession and make it more widely known and accessible. What is the favorite part? My favorite part of OT. Now, this is a hard question. It's like asking a sugar addict what their favorite part of eating chocolate is. It's just sweet. But in all seriousness, I say that my favorite part of being an OT is the opportunity we are given with each patient to instill hope. And I'm not talking about this false sense of hope that comes from believing that you'll never get sick or that you'll recover 100% from injury. I'm talking about the hope that comes from a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift that occurs when we are able to redefine success and health on our own terms. And we're able to guide patients through this paradigm shift because we're often like the first people that they see when they've gone through something traumatic or life-altering. And during this very dark time when they're most vulnerable to feeling like they've lost their identity and a sense of who they are and what they can do, we are there to remind them all the ways that they can still thrive using their remaining abilities. And I really do believe that this perspective matters because happy people, I don't know if you guys noticed this, happy people aren't always people that are in perfect health. I find that happy people are empowered people who can appreciate and live their life despite their limitations. So I don't know. I think that if we can help people see their strengths as clearly as they can see their own limitations, they can begin to thrive. And I think the kind of people who choose to tap into and lean into their strengths are really the people that, that can feel fulfilled in whatever they do. So this is one thing that I really love about occupational therapy. It's the philosophy that we have, that we espouse to, that despite our injuries or our losses, we can still live a meaningful and fulfilling life. We really are a beautiful profession that breathes hope and life and empowerment to people when they need it most. And I try to always remember that when it gets tough. Oh, next question is really hard too. Why are people constantly having difficulty with what OT means? This is a question that gets asked at every single speaking engagement event and Q&A I have done. It's so hard. And believe me, I do share the frustration. And I have my theory based on my own perspective, but I'm not sure that I know the answer. Here's the challenge. We specialize in many different areas and work across many different settings. And I think that's great. We shouldn't change that just so we can have a better branding description of what we do as therapists. But here's where that challenge leads us. First, we end up being like too broad or too narrow when defining or specific when defining OT. Here is AOTA's statement on their website of what occupational therapy is. In its simplest terms, Occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants help people across the lifespan participate in the things they want and need to do through the therapeutic use of everyday activities. I'm gonna let that sink in just for a little bit. Now, this is great. It gives a broad understanding of what we do, and it makes perfect sense to us, but I wonder if it would be just as easy to understand for people who've never heard of OT. Now, please don't take this as me bashing, because I don't know that I can come up with a better statement, nor do I think this is a bad statement, but I think it's a conversation starter. And I don't think it ever hurts to reflect on how we can continue to improve our profession, as well as the public understanding of the role we play and the value we bring. So going back to the statement, we talk about therapeutic use of everyday activities to describe what we do. Now, do you guys remember learning about this in school, how we do therapy using the means to an end? And when I was in school and I first learned about it, my mind was blown. And I was like, what? There's a profession that uses the activity that you want to do to help you get back to doing the activity that you want to do, and it's called an occupation? How does it work? And even after years of going to school and seeing this in practice, I struggle. Not just me, other therapists struggle. Like, go on Facebook. You guys know of any activity we can do with our patient that struggles with this? So when we tell people who's never heard of OT that we're going to help them through the therapeutic use of everyday activities, I don't know. Do you think that makes sense? I mean, it just sounds very theoretical and academic to me. So then from there, this definition gets trickled down to non-academic settings where students graduate and find themselves struggling to articulate their role in both a clinical and non-clinical setting. And what ends up happening is that we get a million variations of poorly articulated interpretation of having, without having one cohesive and consistent statement. So what can be done about it? I don't know, I'm not sure, but if we refined our statement to make it easier, perhaps, for those who've never studied OT or experienced OT, and from there, once we've gotten that definition, what if we made it our mission to teach this single statement in every classroom? Like, every teacher has to say it the same way so that there's consistency. It's like giving an opening line statement that every therapist can use to begin their elevator pitch. And from there, I mean, depending on your specialization and your niche, you can add in more details. But it would just be so helpful, I think, to have this opening statement that everyone can say every time they're asked about their role and what occupational is, so that we can have consistent messaging that's drilled into the public. I don't know, that's just my thought, but it's something I think about a lot. It's something that I thought about since I was a student. I still continue to think about it, and it's a point of, it's a pickle for me. All right, next question. What books are best to prepare for the boards? Every book and resource has its own merits. So AOTA's MBCOT prep is probably one of the most commonly used resource for the MBCOT preparation. You've probably heard about it a lot. And that makes sense because it's a great tool for checking your most basic foundational knowledge. And it gives you an easy way of breaking down all the content areas into simple PDFs. But personally for me, and I know others can attest to this, I found that the questions were just too easy. So you might be in for a big surprise on exam day if you're only in the habit of answering the questions from the AOT PDFs, because the questions from the exam are just not as simple, short, or straightforward. Again, I think it's great for checking to see if you know your stuff, but because it's well organized. But what I found to be helpful in conjunction to help me develop more clinical reasoning skills and test taking strategies were actually the Therapy Ed book and the Occupational Therapy Examination Review Guide, which is also referred to as the purple book, which I'm not sure why, because it's not purple. I think it's green and blue, but it's written by Johnson, and they're definitely harder, and it'll take you longer to get through them. They'll take more time. but you don't want to wait until test day to see if you can answer challenging questions, right? So um, I think those are really great books. Now, one common complaint I get with a therapy ed book, you've probably heard it too, is it's really dense. And I get it. It has a ton of information, some of which seem like it's just too much detail, but it goes over a lot of anatomy and physiology, pathophysiology, and it gets overwhelming. I personally didn't memorize those areas. I was there. I just used it as a reference and it was just there for me if I wanted to go more in depth, but I didn't memorize anything. It was just a reference, which made it less overwhelming, which brings me to my final but favorite resource, which are the textbooks. Particularly, you know me, like I love my Pedretti's textbook. I love it. I didn't read it back to back, or I mean, maybe I did. I use it a lot. But when I had trouble understanding anything, I went back to the textbook and read about it. And it might seem like a waste of time when you're really pressed for time and you have a lot to study, but it's actually easier than trying to like fit the missing pieces through a summary or a synopsis in the study guide, because when you read the textbook you get the whole picture, the whole story. And so at least for understanding, I think investing like 30 minutes to an hour to read a section of the textbook when you really feel stuck rather than trying to figure it out through bullet points is like a really good study tip. Okay. When do you think is a good time to study for the NBCOT? I don't know. I don't think everyone will agree with me here, but if I can personally do it again, I buy the study resources while I was still in school. And that's for two reasons. One, you can't just wake up one day and develop clinical reasoning skills. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes a lot of patience. And if you have an early insight into the kind of questions you'll have to prepare yourself for, you'll get a head start. And that's not to say that you should study intensively while you're also in school full time. But what if you looked at like one test question every week? I mean, that doesn't sound too bad, right? And the second reason is you have the best resource when you're in school. I can't tell you how many times when I was going through these questions, I was like, oh, I wish I could ask Dr. Rafidi. Oh, I need to ask this to my mental health instructor, you know? I mean, your instructors and peers are like the most underutilized resource for the NBCOT. How great would it be to review the same section that you're going over in class while, and then like open up your therapy ed book and see if you can like cross-reference it. So if you're learning about burns, you can go to therapy ed and go to that chapter and see if you can make sense of it. And if you can't, you have your instructor to help you and your peers to brainstorm. So I think getting a head start and just getting the habit of answering those questions and utilizing those resources at school can definitely help you prepare. And let me tell you, like once you're out of school, it's hard to get in contact. Like you have to pay for everything once you're out. And so use those resources while you're in school because you pay tuition to get there. Okay. Would you recommend an OT clipboard? You know, I've never used it. I don't know that it was around when I was in school. So I'm sorry, I can't really speak to that. But what are some tips to ace the NBCOT exam? So if you go on my website, there's a whole section where I chronicle and write articles about what I did in really specific detail from exam 1 to exam 2. So I'm not going to really go over it in too much detail here, but I think one tip that I wish I had and that I tell everyone I speak to now is avoid decision fatigue. Have a plan for answers you don't know. So like when you it's a marathon. When you go in, you're gonna have to sit there for like 3 to 4 hours, and you don't want to waste time or mental energy choosing a random answer. So I think if you don't know the answer, don't waste your energy. Choose letter A, B, C, or D and just stick with it. Like if you don't know the answer, don't be like, okay, am I gonna choose A or B or C? Just put in D for all of the answers, or C, or whatever it is. And another tip that I have is answer every question like it's the last time you'll see it, because chances are you'll probably not have enough time to go through all the questions in the end. And everyone is different. So I mean, you may be able to come back to those questions, but don't count on it. And if you have the time to come back after 3+ hours, I don't know, do you think you'll be in a better brain space to answer the question that was really difficult the first time in the first hour? Probably not. I mean, like, by the time I was coming out of the exam, I was like, I couldn't think, I couldn't stand, I felt like barfing. And so chances are when you go back to all of those answers, you're gonna choose the wrong answer. So stick with your gut. Whatever you chose the first time is probably the right answer. Okay. All right. What else do I have? Oh, yes, no. Okay, so this is something that really tripped me up, and I know that it trips a lot of people up. Know that you won't know everything on the exam, and you still can pass without answering all the questions correctly. This is so important. Don't let a question or even like a string of questions you don't know make you believe that you've already failed the exam. I think sustaining confidence and optimism throughout the exam is key to pushing through this grueling marathon. And believe me, you won't be the first to find out that you passed the exam, even though you felt like you completely bombed the exam. Everyone feels that way. So stay confident, move, push through. Don't let those questions psych you out. I mean, these are just some of the few things that I think can be helpful, but confidence really, I think, is the biggest thing. I remember when I was taking the exam, the first question was so hard. Like I looked at it, I'm like, I have never heard of that disease. Like I've never even seen it. And you know what? I still haven't seen it in practice. Like, why is it on the exam? But it wasn't even just the first question, second question, third question, fourth question. And then when you get to the seventh question in a row that you can't answer, you just feel like there's no way you're gonna fit. I mean, there's no way you're gonna pass. But believe me, those questions are designed to be hard. In life and in practice, you won't be able to answer every question and you'll still make it. Same thing with the exam. Don't let those questions freak you out. You won't be able to answer them, but chances are you can still pass it. So move swiftly, move and push through that exam. Know that you can do it. You're ready for it. Everything you need to pass the exam is already within you. Okay. Do you know any travel OTs? I do. They love what they do. I wanted to do it, but I have babies and I can't. So if you decide to become a travel OT, I will live vicariously through you and you can tell me all about it because it has always been my dream. Maybe another lifetime. Okay, let's see. Do you have any tips for resume? I'm not very active in clubs and wonder if that hurt me. How do you do your documentation? What can be doing outside of therapy? Okay, so for all of these questions, I want to refer you directly to my website. And it's not because I don't want to talk about it here, but I gathered so many resources, you guys. And these are all the things that I wish I had when I was applying, and I put it in one little section. I mean, I even have sample resumes and cover letters that you can download, along with frequently asked questions and typical answers on how I answer them. And not just me, but based on a lot of clinicians and their feedback. So I hope it's helpful to you. Check out that section if you haven't already. Oh, this is a fun question. Do you get recognized when you apply or work in new places? I do. The first time was at a baby shower about a year after starting my YouTube channel. It was at a very intimate baby shower of they're just close friends and family. I would never think of, running into somebody there. I was drinking merrily, being my old goofy self. And there someone came up to me and was like, "Oh my gosh, are you OT Miri?" And I was like, yeah. Meanwhile, my friends who've known me for decades are like, "Who are you, OT Miri?" Because I never told them I had a YouTube channel. The thing is, when I named my channel OT Miri, I didn't ever imagine that someone would come up to me on the street and call me OT Miri. It was just a channel name. And it was weird at first, but I have come to since embrace it fully because I actually love the meaning of my name. And I shared this in one of my YouTube videos, but if you don't know, my name actually means beautiful village. It's what my parents wanted for me. And it's also my dream. And so wherever I go, like whenever I hear somebody call me OT Miri, I'm just reminded of this joy and privilege I have in creating a beautiful OT village. So that's one of the first times, but to be honest, like it's not always nice being recognized. I think one time I was at McDonald's and I don't particularly love this place, nor do I go often. But I didn't have any options that day. So I placed my order and on my way to use the restroom, I accidentally threw away the receipt, the ticket, and the trash can along with all the other trash I had. And I didn't think it was a big deal when my order came out. I went to go grab it. But the same lady who took my order stopped me because I didn't show my receipt. And she was adamant that I needed to show my receipt to get my food. And all of a sudden, I saw all these eyes turn on me, like questioning if I was about to steal this $4 burger. So what did I do next? I could have probably purchased it again, and that would have been the better choice. But out of principle, I couldn't do that. So I went back to the trash can and I started looking for my receipt. It hadn't been a long time, so I knew I wouldn't have to dig too deep. But in that moment, like I heard those words again, and it came through a whisper. And she was definitely cautious. Oh, Miri? OT Miri, is that you? My heart sank. Like, I slowly turned around. I remember this so vividly. And I had ketchup and like crinkled receipt in my hands. I definitely looked frazzled, borderline deranged. And in that moment, I knew my life will never be the same. I can't go around digging trash cans anymore. But I mean, she was very generous and she still wanted to take a picture with me. But later, when I would see the photo again, I noticed that she was like 2 feet away from me, leaning in with her head just close enough to be in the photo. And we both gave like our best awkward smile. And this is the price I pay for having a public account. But I can't give it up. I love this community so much. And I've met too many wonderful people through it. Lifelong friendships were birthed through this project. So I'm in it. I'm in it forever, and I'll forever be grateful for that. So I think that was the last question, and I think I answered everything. So thank you guys for the opportunity to share a little bit more about myself, and thank you for taking interest and curiosity in me. I don't feel like I've always. I didn't always have a very public account. In fact, before YouTube, I had none of my accounts were private. I rarely posted on Facebook, Instagram, anything. And all of a sudden, I have people that I know online, and I still can't wrap my brain around it, but it's the most wonderful thing, and I love this community so much. So I wish that this was in person so I can see you guys and give you guys hugs. I don't have ketchup and dirty trash on my hands, take photos, but I'll be looking forward to that opportunity. And if you guys see me ever at a workshop or an AOTA conference, please come up to me so we can get to know each other and drink coffee together. I'm not scary. I love meeting people. So that's it. And I will hand it back over to Louis and Maribel and take some Q&A if we have time. I don't know if we'll have time.
We actually, yeah, we're at 5:14 right now. We'll conclude at 5:30. Oh, now it's 5:15. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and go right ahead.
I have a question.
Anastasia.
Yes, hi. I again wanted to reiterate what probably everyone is thinking right now, and thank you for all your passion and energy that you bring to profession and your dedication. But I actually wanted to bring you back to the elevator pitch part of our conversation. Do you have one? And whenever people ask you, what do you tell them? Somebody who never heard of occupational therapy, and I meet a lot of people like that, and I struggle greatly to describe what it is.
Can I actually ask you how you currently describe it? This is a question that I love to ask, and I get so many different answers, but you, along with maybe other volunteers, can I hear what you say first?
Well, I usually begin with my intro phrase by saying it is a rehabilitation profession, so that to give a people direction that it's something that we try to rehabilitate. And then I describe it that we help people get back to their normal life after injury or a disease, or try to bring them up to speed with their normal lives, when I try to describe the pediatric setting when we try to habilitate something. And then I lose people. After these two sentences, they're lost.
Is there anyone else, their elevator pitch or how they describe our profession and the role that we play? I'd love to hear.
Hi, my name is Bianca.
Hi, Bianca.
Um, I usually say that OT is the only profession that involves their occupations in a session, in a treatment session. Um, and OT tries their best to, help the patients, clients go back to their daily activities, the daily life activities. That's what I usually say.
Yeah, and that's both of them. Both of that's exactly what we do. Anyone else?
So I used to use both incorrectly. I used to say PT does the lower body, OT does the upper body. That was one. The other one I used to do before I really got into the program was also say PT helps you get out of bed, but OT helps you figure out once you get to the door. And that's not true, because we also help people get out of bed.
It's true.
You know what's an interesting scenario? So I work in a school. I had kids ask me what OT is, and these are like my very own students. I have them ask me, I tell them like, oh, it's OT time. And then they're like, what is OT anyway? And then I'm like, how do I explain this? So that's another interesting challenge that I would like to put out there, is if you can explain it to a child, you can explain it pretty much to anyone, I think.
Yeah, I'll start there. I think that's a good way. If you can explain it to a child, you can explain it to anyone. I take that approach when I make my videos too. I want an 8-year-old to be able to understand my spinal cord injury video. That's why I sing mermaid songs. But I think that gets to the heart of it. You have to be able to break it down and make it really easy. So one of the things that I do, especially for a child, like I want Noah and my kids, Emma, to know what I do, right? What do you do, Mom? Well, I help you do what you really want to do. Can you tell me? I always put it back to them. Tell me, what is it you want to do? Something. Is there something that's stopping you from doing that? What's stopping you? Because I see all of these things. You have these attributes, you have these strengths, and you have these resources that you can do. But tell me, I'm curious, is there something that's stopping you from fully doing what it is that you want to do? Because if there is, I have the solution for that. I can problem solve with you on that issue. And a child may say, I want to learn how to button. I just can't draw. I can't figure this out. Everyone in my class knows how to use the scissors, but I don't know how to use it. Instead of defining the problem for them, which can diminish them, I always let them figure out or think about the problem. Imagine if somebody came up to you and was like, this is something that I think you need to work on, and here's how I'm gonna help you work on it. Even as adults, I think that's really hard. But what if you ask them, what do you want to do? Do you find it challenging? Do you want me to help you problem solve that challenge? But I think that's the same thing with adults. It doesn't matter. I mean, I met somebody who had no idea, my neighbor who came by to sell Girl Scout cookies. And it was the daughter, and he was like, "Oh, so what is it that you do?" And I'm like, "Hi, neighbor, nice to meet you. You want me to talk about my role?" But I'm an OT, so I will talk about what I do. And I was like, "I'm an occupational therapist." Like, "Oh, yeah, what is that?" That's the answer that we get all the time. And I just looked at him, and I rarely ever use the definition because I find that they don't understand it. So I just say, there are a lot of things that people may struggle to do after they've been in an injury or a traumatic event, and that can happen whether you're a baby, a teenager, or an adult. I don't use the across the lifespan, even that is like very academic, across the lifespan in the therapeutic use, right? So then I just say, whether you're a child or an adult or with an advanced age, there are injuries, there are accidents. None of us are immune to that. And when that happens, it's really easy to get back to doing what it is you want to do. At that point, a doctor may prescribe medication and do surgical intervention on you. And at that point, a physical therapist might help you strengthen and improve your range of motion. But when when all of that fails, guess who's there to save your day? I'm there, because I will show you compensatory strategies. Even if your PT and doctor tells you you'll never be able to use that limb again, I'm going to show you that there are so many things that you can use just to get back to doing what you want. I'm a storyteller. I make it very visual. And so it'll differ depending on the audience, but it always sticks with the same thing, which is OTs are there at a time of an injury or transition or any traumatic event to help them do what it is that they want to do. And we figure out ways to problem solve that, because that's what we do, right, in creative ways. And part of how we do that is by using daily activities. And, if they're paying attention, I'll add it in, and that's called occupation. That's why we're called occupational therapists. But then every time I use the word occupation, they get so confused. So then I leave it out until the very end. And if I feel like they're there right there with me, and I'm like, so remember, activity equals occupation. I will creatively solve your problems with you, for you. So
has a question, and then Kawan.
Oh, no, I didn't really have a question. I just thought the way you said it was just very well put. It's very like the way we explain it is very abstract, and it's okay depending on the age group our target audience is. But for the most part, it really is like we are trying to make you the best versions of yourself.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yes, my pleasure.
I think we
Jay,
have
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I think we have a question from Emma, if she wants to unmute and ask her question.
Hi, Emma. My
Hi.
daughter shares your name.
How are you?
Beautifully. Hi.
Hi. This is kind of changing gears, but I'm in my first semester at in grad school for OT. And something I foresee me struggling with is, say if there was like a really traumatic situation and someone completely lost their identity role, how do you not like the grieving process and what they're going through, but also if you're on a time constraint of therapy, how do you mix that balance of respecting their grieving, but also building that rapport and getting them to participate in the therapy? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just something I foresee. Like if somebody lost a limb or something like that, and they're just not interested in engaging, and there's a foreseen time of understanding that they're going to grieve that. How do you get over that barrier by like respecting them with the allotted time of therapy you have with them?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I thought about that a lot too. And every time I'm faced in this situation, I think I just come back beyond what we're called to do as an OT. There is like a baseline principle and common respect and courtesy and compassion that I think we have to adhere to. Two of my really close and important friends in my life incurred stroke one during the year of the pandemic and one prior to. And it was devastating. I went to go visit them in the hospital. And when I went, I wanted to fully utilize and put into use like my OT lens and help them, like, because I was trained to do this. I received my certified neurospecialist just like a year ago and 2 years ago, and I felt like I had a lot to offer. And this is how we feel when we go into each patient's room. But and so that was my plan. But when I walked in, that all went out the door because there is still a human behind that person, like a beyond just like positioning. And obviously you'll notice a lot of things that need to be done. But I think in the acute phase, and I'm assuming it's the acute phase because when somebody's had like that traumatic experience, I think people need time. And we don't have time now for me to tell a story. I've actually witnessed somebody coming out of a coma, and I can tell you that it was a part of a stroke round. There was not a single dry eye in that room, and there was not a single person who was ready to do therapy or do intervention.
Yeah.
We were respectful, and we allowed that person to come out of his state and to digest what was happening. And I think that always comes first and foremost. And ultimately, if they don't want to do therapy, we know that we can't force them to do it, right? And for me, that's always going to be the most important thing. I'm going to value and respect what it is they want to do. And if you don't have, like, the heart moves the mountains. If their heart is not going to be in it, I don't think it's going to be an effective therapy to begin with. Establishing rapport and building the trust that I'm not there to judge, or that I'm not there just to see them as another number, but I'm there because this is a profession I got into because I care about healing human lives, including the heart. When I can really convey that, I think that sets the foundation for you to really become a therapeutic agent.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. I don't know if anyone has one. I have a question. I don't know if we want to jump to that one, but unless if anyone else wants to have that asked. Okay, so I can just, and I think this will be like a nice little conclusion question. So you are not only an occupational therapist, you are also a content creator. You certainly are inspiring, and you really take the helm when it comes to your content. What advice would you give for occupational therapists to support other practitioners or students, whether it's through creating YouTube videos, or even just posting on Instagram, or even just simply acknowledging to the other person what OT is? Does that question make sense?
It does. There's so many ways to answer that question. So primarily you're asking, what would I advise for current students that they do in order to help others?
In order to, yeah. So basically, what advice would you have for someone who wants to basically sort of like inspire other people to have that passion and that drive to like keep going, in their OT education? You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's something that a stranger once told me, which I thought was insulting at the time, but 30 years later, I still think about it and I sort of live by it, which is, you are unique and special, just like everybody else. Just, very like bitter old man just told me basically that I'm not very special, but I don't think that's how he meant it actually. He meant that everyone is special in their own way. And so I share this because there is no single way that I think we can contribute to elevating our profession or to inspiring other people. And if I were to say, try this or try that, I don't think I am giving you guys enough credit, or that I'm taking away from the creativity that I know you have. So first, I know that you have the passion to help people because you chose this profession. And I think that's a start, and that's the foundation that we all need. In everything that I've done, the sushi business that I did in the beginning, I didn't start that because I wanted to make money. Sure, that was a part of it. I wanted to dabble in entrepreneurship, but I started it because I had gained 120 pounds when I was in undergrad and I needed healthy alternative. If I needed it and if I want it, I went back to that statement. If you're not as special, you're special just like everybody else. If I need it, there's somebody undoubtedly out there who wants it or needs it just as much as you. When I started the YouTube channel, it was birthed out of my pain. I did not think a lot of people would watch it. I was asking my friends to subscribe so that I can get 100 people, so I can actually name the channel, because without 100 subscribers, you can't even have a name for your channel, right? I didn't think 100 people would watch it, but I started it because there was a need, and I asked myself, is there a need? Can I fill it? If not me, then who? So I want to turn that back to you guys. I think the way to inspiration is to ask yourself, look at yourself and say, like, do a needs assessment? Is there a need? Is there a gap? It could be helping to redefine the elevator pitch. What if you were the next person that came up with a task force for an elevator pitch and it got adopted? Oh my gosh, that's a dream. And you were quoted all the time. I mean, what if you were, the ideas, it's boundless. There's so many things you can do, but I think it always starts with a need. So instead of asking maybe, what can I do? I think the question is, what is the need? And where is my role in that need? And can I fill it? And if I fill it and other people watch you fill that need, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know there was a need for that. But when I was studying for the NBCOT, I went on YouTube and I saw physical therapists talking about their board. I saw RNs talking about the NCLEX. I saw doctors talking about, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's no OT representation. The injustice, this cannot be this way. And so I started it. And I didn't know a single thing about YouTube. I still, right now, I'm using a webcam, you guys. I don't have a mic. I don't have lighting. It's really dark in here, right? 3 years later, I'm still an amateur. I don't know what I'm doing. The sushi business, do you think I knew how to make sushi? Did I have the money? Did I have a business background? No, I chose abnormal psychology because I wanted to figure out my abnormal self. And then I somehow turned into a business. I didn't know how to pay my employees. The thing is, I learned on the go, but when you can identify a need and when you can instill confidence in yourself to say, you know what, hey, I think I have the skills and I have confidence, I can do it. And you don't listen to haters because there's so many of them in this world, you're gonna make a difference, and that impact will be heard and it'll reverberate. And I always say to myself, like, I don't need to change the world. I wanna change the world for one person. And if I've accomplished that, my life has been well lived. One person, let me change the world for one person. Yeah.
So thank you so much, OT Miri. This was really inspiring. I hope everyone gained some kind of insight from all of this. At this time, we're going to conclude, but before we go, I just wanted to say that this is recorded. It will be available on the NYSOTA website for NYSOTA members only. So if you are indeed a NYSOTA member, you will have access to this recording as soon as we figure out how to upload it. But otherwise, we're pretty much all wrapped up. Oh yes, you wanted to say something?
Yes, final thing, and I forgot to mention, so for all the speaking engagements that I do, I always let all the students know, if you are part of this session and you are here, I want if you guys want to reach out to my email, always write in the subject line that you were in this meeting and list your school, because sometimes emails just get really lost, and I get like hundreds of emails from people that I know, people that I don't know, from trolls, I mean, whoever it might be. And so just write in that subject line, because I always prioritize people that I have met. And so during your NBCOT journey, during your continuing, like as you continue to go through your program, reach out to me. And when I see that subject line, believe me, I will be so happy. I will open it up and you will make my day, and we can stay in touch through the many transitions of our career. So I want to thank you guys again for giving me this opportunity to forge friendships with you guys. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in.
Of course. Okay, so thank you everyone for dropping by, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.
Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording and then I'll send it to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.